Welcome to WP Coffee Talk with your podcast barista, Michelle Frechette. Special thanks to our sponsors, WS Forum and Beaver Builder. If you're interested in joining WP Coffee Talk as a guest or a sponsor, please visit our site at WPCoffeeTalk.com. And now, on with the show. Welcome to WP Coffee Talk. I'm your podcast barista, Michelle Frechette, serving up the WordPress stories from around the world. And today, my guest is Mohammed Moeez. Moeez, how are you today?
I'm good, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And remind me again where you're located, because I don't remember what city you're in.
Okay, so I'm in Karachi. It's the biggest city in Pakistan and
Yeah,
the financial hub. So yeah, I'm based out of Karachi.
it's not the same time where you are, where I am. Here it's 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm guessing it's around 11, 10, 11, 12 o'clock in the evening where you
It's
are.
it's actually 8 p.m. over here.
Okay, so not too bad. I didn't make
Yeah,
you
yeah,
get
it's
out
all
of
right.
I didn't make you get out of bed to record
No, not at
an
not
episode.
at all. It's tea time here actually. So
Oh, very good. Perfect then. Well, I
yeah,
won't keep you from your tea for long, but I'm looking forward to this conversation.
yeah. I'm just gonna have my tea while we're on the session. So it's all right.
Yep, that's okay. We're going to talk about that, your mug and your tea in
Sure.
a minute too. Um, so first tell us, I didn't tell everybody what you do. You are the Cloudways community manager and marketing team
Yeah,
lead at Cloudways. So that's pretty cool. I love that. And I love the fact that you and I have got to work together on some things
yeah,
before. That you've been so kind to include me on for Cloudways. So
yeah.
it's good to have you on my show this time instead of the other way around.
Yeah, it's
So,
great. It's an honor. It's an honor actually.
um,
It's a fan moment for me because since I've been within the WordPress community, I have like followed a lot of people, and you have been one of them. And I've followed you very closely over the past
uh,
few months. Obviously, since I've been working in community, and you're pretty much doing the same thing,
yes.
so for a long time. So to get inspiration from what you are doing, how you're running community, building community, and interacting with people.
Well,
So
thank you.
it's yeah, you're someone who I have looked up on, for quite a long time.
Well, thank you. I think that you're doing an amazing job. So to think that I have any part in that, I'm very humbled and very honored. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about, I mean, I know what you do because we basically kind of do the same thing, but tell everybody else, who a little bit about yourself and what you do at Cloudways.
All right, so I've been with Cloudways for about 6 years, and I've been part of the community ever since. But very recently, I got involved within the WordPress community and got to know them very closely. It's been like 2 or 3 years since I've been leading the community initiative at Cloudways. And what we basically do within community at Cloudways is that if you have followed Cloudways for the past 5 or 6 years, you would know that Cloudways is a very community-led product, right? So it's something that a community is one of the core foundations of Cloudways. And WordPress, being the majority of the shares with Cloudways. So we focus a lot on what happens within the WordPress community and how we can contribute towards it. Right, contributing toward WordPress is one thing, but making sure that our presence is there and we do as much as we can to support the open source. Right. So this is what I do at Cloudways. I look after partnerships. I look after community initiatives. I make sure that Cloudways is there. There is a good image of Cloudways all year round within the WordPress community, and then obviously we have different applications as well. There is PHP, there is Magento, so I kind of look after that as well, but mostly focusing on WordPress and what happens within the community, how Cloudways can contribute towards it. Events being one, I have been very recently involved within events, especially since WordCamp Europe back in 2022, where I was there with my other teammates, and
Mhm.
then WordCamp Asia, and then WordCamp Europe again, and then WordCamp US this year, where I have been managing all the stuff in the back end, but I'm not exactly being there this year. So this is like all that we do at Cloudways, making sure that we are there within the community. The community members like yourself and others are, appreciating Cloudways and remembering us within good words. So it's all about that. I mean, we can't make sure that we get the sales. Obviously, that's not what we do, but we make sure that there is a good image of Cloudways within the
Mhm.
community and that it persists over a longer period of time by building, meaningful partnerships, not
Mhm.
necessarily based on business, but based on mutual respect and mutual community work.
I love that. That's wonderful. And you seem to really enjoy your job, which is really awesome. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Cloudways and what you do in a
Sure,
little bit, but I've got some basic questions first. So
sure.
the first one I always ask everybody is to show us your mug and tell
Okay.
us what's in it.
Okay, so this mug, let me just tell you a bit about this mug. So this
Yes.
mug is from when we organized a WordPress Karachi meetup back a few months back. It was Cloudways and WP Experts. WP Experts is another WordPress company based out of Karachi. So we organized a Karachi meetup, which was a huge success. Actually, there were a lot of people, a lot of students, agencies, SEO people working within WordPress, people who are learning, how to build websites on WordPress. So I was one of the speakers over there as well, and one of the organizers. And this is the mug that we distributed to our attendees. And within this mug is a cup of tea. So let me just tell you one thing about Pakistan. So in Pakistan, you won't find a lot of people drinking coffee, right? But we are a nation who are obsessed with tea because no matter how hot it gets, it's never too cold in Karachi. So it's always, even if it gets cold during December, it gets around 15, 16 degrees centigrade, not colder than that. But right now it's around 35,
Mm-hmm.
and we still drink a lot of tea. I mean, whether it's 50 degrees centigrade or what, we don't leave the house without having a cup of tea. So within this cup is a cup of tea that I'm having right now. It's around 8 to 5 p.m., which is mostly, tea time in Karachi. We sleep very late over here, so the
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle is not exactly the same as you might have experienced in your region. So this is the time where we mostly, sit at a coffee table and have a cup of tea. So
Very
this is
nice.
a cup of tea that I just made a few minutes
Mm.
ago.
And that's your WordPress 20-year celebration. It looks like the birthday mug.
Yes,
And
yes. So yeah,
I think I saw pictures online that with you had a cake and everything else at that party. Did you
exactly.
not?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that was
yeah,
wonderful with that picture on it. Let me
yeah.
show you my mug. My mug is
Sure.
older than yours. My mug is I can never move things right. You'd think after all
Okay.
these years I'd understand cameras. But Robert's Wesleyan College. I graduated college probably before you were born, back in 1991. And this was a mug that I got when I graduated from college
Oh,
back in
nice.
the day, as they say. So,
You
and
have kept you have kept this mug ever since.
I have for many, many years. And someday it will probably break or, you know, disappear or something, or I'll disappear long before it does. I don't know, but it's kind of a nice little memory to have. And I'm drinking coffee. It's still morning here, so coffee with cream and sugar.
Okay.
So.
Nice.
How did you get started with WordPress?
All right. So, as I said before, my journey with WordPress started with Cloudways, right? I'm a business graduate. I'm not someone who is very sound with technical stuff or know how to build websites. I learned a bit of that when I joined Cloudways because in order to learn what Cloudways is, I had to learn what WordPress is, right? And how what websites are and how they are built, and what is cloud and what is storage and everything. So I had to learn all that while on job. So my job was to market the product. I wasn't initially within the community, but I was part of the marketing team. But my skill set and something and the way I communicate and everything, people around me thought that I'm better suited for community, and actually loved that because it's something where you interact with people a lot, you get to know them, you share a lot of things with people who have a lot of things common with each other. So that is something that I love, and that is where I get got started with WordPress, right? And I started to learn WordPress, how to build websites on WordPress. Now, I'm not exactly a developer right now as of, but I still know the basics of how you can build a website and what hosting you should use, and if anyone comes
Mhm.
with some help on getting to know how what hosting that person should use and how to build a website, I can give a few tips and tricks. But that is how I got started in WordPress. I mean, and the crux of it is that if it wasn't for Cloudways, I wouldn't be in the WordPress community at all.
No, I understand that for sure. I got started because my friend and I started a nonprofit, and her husband built us a website, and it happened to be WordPress, and that was my entrance into WordPress. And I worked freelance for several years before I actually do what I do today. So I
Okay.
love that we all have different stories that lead us to where we are, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And I think you do a great job with community. You're really and pulling people together from all over the world.
Yeah.
The week leading up to the WordPress birthday, you had all of these wonderful webinars, and
Yeah.
asked me to moderate a panel on women in WordPress, and we literally were from all over the world, and that just made me so happy to be part of that. So thank you for
Yeah.
all that you do. When you think over WordPress and developers and hosting and all of the different things. What's something that you think when people build websites that they don't concentrate enough, focus enough on, something that maybe they skip, or when they're building sites, something that would make their sites better that they often overlook?
Well, I think the answer to this question is it differs over time, right? So if you have asked me this question 5 years ago, I would have said something else. But right now, I think a lot of people skip the part where accessibility is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have had a few sessions during the WordPress 20 celebration webinar series, and I have met a few people over the time where I've been involved within the community, and most of them, are focusing on accessibility right now. And the only point that they stress on is that not a lot of not a lot of web developers are now focusing on accessibility. They don't, take into account people of different disabilities, or people of different race and language, where if someone is accessing your website from a region where they don't speak English, for example, how are they supposed to read your content? And if someone
Mm-hmm.
who is visually impaired, how are they supposed to read your content? Are there subtitles on your videos, or is there transcript? If someone is not able to hear properly, is there a transcript for your videos? So I
Mm-hmm.
think this is something that a lot of people should now take care of. And I we belonging to a region where not a lot of people are considered about these things.
Mm-hmm.
I have, the talk that I gave in the WordPress meetup was exactly about this, where I told people that if you're building website, you should consider now people of different backgrounds, race, religion, languages, disabilities, and a lot of other things. So we can't be 100%, but we can definitely be 80%, 85% there. So
Mm-hmm.
I think this is something that a lot of web developers should now focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And every time I am told that something about one of my sites is not accessible, that I missed something, I love to be able to go back and fix it.
Yeah,
And I love that we have plugins now that will tell you what's wrong with your site, so you can fix them
exactly.
before they're
Yeah,
a problem for somebody else, which I think is it's a great thing for sure.
yeah.
So you've been in the WordPress community around 6 years or so. What's something that you wish you had known earlier in that journey that would have made life a little bit easier for you today?
Hmm. Earlier. Okay, so there are a lot of things I think that I think I should have known earlier. But one thing that I think I should mention over here is that there is one incident. I think I will answer this question with that incident, and I think it's funny actually. I'm actually embarrassed to talk about it, but I think I should. So back in the day, I used to work for a WordPress resource. It was called WP Blog, right? And it was actually a Cloudways resource. And so I used to work for that. I used to write content around WordPress for that resource. And we decided that we should, have a list of women who are very influential in WordPress, right? And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. I think it will work on Twitter. We will tag, different women in WordPress who are achieving a lot of things. So let's do it. So we created a list, and we created a very good content around it. We had all the pictures and the Twitter profiles. Now the title of that blog post was the Supergirls of WordPress, right? And that was the moment when I clicked published after a few hours, and when we posted that on Twitter. After a few hours, I got to know that not a lot of women are very pleased when you call them girls. So, and I got to know that okay, so that is something that I didn't know before, and there were a lot of influential WordPress women in my DMs and on the comments who were like saying to me that this is something that you shouldn't have done. I mean, this is not okay. And I had to like take a few hours to understand why is this not okay, right? Because I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
anything about that. But and then one of those women came and said that okay, so this is why this is not okay. I mean, if you're women, you can call us women. Girls is something that it's not a very professional way to call someone a woman. So I was like, okay, so that is something that actually taught me a lot of things to
Mm-hmm.
take care of in the future, right? So if you are addressing someone within the community, whether they belong to any gender, you should have the proper words to address those people. And
Mm-hmm.
saying especially calling a woman a girl is not something that is considered right in all the cultures. And
Yeah.
not yeah, so that is something that I didn't know about, not exactly the WordPress community, but the
In
way of
general, yeah.
communication in general. Yeah, so that is something that that where I started to become very cautious about how to write a content, how to address someone in the blog post or on Twitter socials and everything like that. So
Yeah.
that is something that I wish that I knew sooner, because it went not just for that day, for the entire month. So I Even though I corrected that, but people
Yeah.
who are visiting the blog post later on, they were like
Yeah.
saying, what do you mean if you're calling us a girl? So I was like, okay, so this should be corrected.
It's interesting. We those lessons are so hard sometimes. They hurt, right? To hear those kinds of things. And they make you feel bad because you don't want
Yeah,
to offend people. But wow, what lessons we take from them, right? So like
yeah,
I know I've had gaffes in the past where I'm like, oh, I wish I could just pretend that never happened, right? But you grow
yeah,
from them, and that's a good thing. If you do it right, you grow from them, and that's a good thing.
yeah,
I think
yeah, and that's
too,
yeah,
you bring up a good point is that there's cultural things, right? So
yeah,
WordPress is very much um Euro and North American driven as far
yeah,
as community goes. Right or
yes,
wrong, that's just the way it is, right?
yeah,
And so in your culture, maybe saying girls is not as big a deal as it would be in Europe and North America, for example. And I encounter that at least on a weekly basis. You know, I put out every week a list of jobs and places that are hiring. And oftentimes people don't read the first paragraph very well and they think that I'm hiring, and so they'll DM me and they'll ask me for a job or they'll ask me to hire them. And I
yeah,
always, and I say I'm not a hiring manager. I just post jobs from other places to help you find, jobs. And then this one person this week, and he was from Asia. I'm not going to say where specifically, but he said something like, "I need to tell you that you're beautiful." And I responded and said, "Would you say that to a man?" Like, I'm not going to hire you if you flatter me that way. That is like so creepy, right? So, but so calling us girls was better than that.
yeah.
So, but yeah, people learn, and I'm okay giving people an education. I'm not rude about it, but I'm okay saying, please don't ever do that to another woman. Oh my goodness. What's something that you wish that I asked that question? Hold on. What are some of your favorite WordCamp or meetup talks or experiences that you've had? Was there like one particular moment when there was like, I always like to say the sky opened and the sun shone down on you and you had an epiphany, or just you met somebody really cool? Like something that happened at either a WordCamp or meetup that you can point to for that kind of experience.
uh, I think back in 2022, when I attended my first WordCamp in Porto, and that was the first opportunity that I got to actually witness the WordPress community face to face. Because before that time, I used to just have those people on calls or on webinars or podcasts. I've never met them before ever in my life, right? So the WordCamp Europe in Porto, and I think that was the WordCamp which was the first WordCamp after COVID,
Mhm.
the first physical WordCamp after COVID, and it was huge. Like there was a lot of turnout because people were actually craving for
Mhm.
for an actual WordCamp. And I think being over there, meeting those people that I have met uh, probably tens and hundreds of times over webinars and calls, and they recognizing me by my face. So I think that was something that was a very proud moment for me, because I thought that all the work that I did over the past 2 years, 3 years, 4 years is now presenting itself in front of me in that way. Because I never thought that I would meet those people in real life first, and then let alone them recognizing me. I was standing on the Cloudways booth and people were coming to me and saying my name. Obviously they were not saying Moeez, they were saying Mohammed. But I was like, that's all right. But they recognizing me and pointing out the work that I've done with them, of like the podcast or the webinars that I did with them. So that was something that I was really proud of. And secondly, very recently, when we pulled off the WB20 celebration webinar series, I think that was, and then you coming to our booth and telling me that that was something very nice and you appreciated it. Uh, and then we pulled off the WordPress meetup in Karachi, because we over here have a very small WordPress community. It's not very large, and our aim is to have a proper WordCamp in Karachi one day, right? And this WordPress meetup was a step in that direction, right? And obviously, our aim is to reach or actually organize a WordPress meetup, oh sorry, WordCamp in Karachi one day, and then a WordCamp Pakistan probably maybe one day. So these are small baby steps, but hopefully over the years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whenever the time is right, We will organize a WordCamp Karachi. Obviously, we will invite you as well to speak. So let's see what happens, but hopefully that will happen. So this WordPress meetup, something that I'm very proud of, and then all the things that I mentioned before.
That's wonderful. I love that you have a body of work that you can look back to
Yeah,
and know that others have appreciated it as well. It
yeah,
makes life in our job so much more fulfilling when we know
yeah,
that we're having an impact on others, which I think is great. So
absolutely.
tell us a little bit about more about Cloudways and anything you want to talk about what you do in community, and maybe WordCamp US is coming up. I'm hoping that I get this episode out before actually, so that people can hear about everything before. I know you won't be there, but Cloudways will, I'm sure.
Yeah.
um, but tell us a little bit about what people can expect when they come to your booths, or when they inquire about hosting with you.
All right. So our booth is the booth number 607. So if anyone wants to, visit the booth, it's booth number 607. On our booth, we will have two of our team members, Uwais Khan and Saad Khan. Uwais Khan is director marketing, and Saad Khan is director product marketing. So these two are going to be there on the booth, waiting to obviously welcome anyone who wants to visit Cloudways. Obviously, we will have a lot of swag, t-shirts, notebooks, things like that. But most importantly, we will be there to tell you more about what Cloudways is and how it can help your business, your SMBs, your e-commerce stores, your agencies to grow. We have a lot of new features that we have launched this year. Obviously, after the acquisition of DigitalOcean, we have sped up the process of launching new features. Previously, it was quite slow, and obviously we were short of resources in a few departments. But now, after the acquisition, we have started to release new features very quickly. So we have a lot to talk about that as well. So if anyone wants to know about what new features we have, and how it can help out, how those features can help them grow faster and grow bigger, obviously they can hop on to the booth and talk to other Saad or Oways, and they will be able to fill you in on that. Obviously, you can schedule meetings with Oways and Saad as well. If you just go on to the Cloudways website right now, you will see a blog post over there, and there is a meeting link over there as well. So you can schedule meeting. You won't have to wait in line to meet them. So yeah, you can schedule a meeting with them and talk to them about different things or different partnerships. If you want, not obviously, if you're not a customer, if you don't want to be a customer, you can talk about different content partnerships, marketing partnerships over there as well. So yeah, I mean, we are there over there at, again, booth number 607, waiting for you to hop on and talk about the community, Cloudways, WordPress, and a lot more.
And if you're listening to this episode afterwards, you missed it, but we hope that you got over there. you 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 said one of my favorite swag items, which is notebooks, because I write things down all the
Yeah,
time, fill them up, and then as I'm
yeah.
taking notes during meetings and things like that. So what's your favorite piece of swag or kind of swag that you've gotten at different word camps?
Okay, so my favorite piece of swag was this socks that I got from Nitro Pack. So back in 2022, sorry, back in, yeah, 2022, when in Porto, it was my first WordCamp, as I mentioned, and there was this Nitro Pack booth, and they had this unique pair of socks. And first I thought that I should just grab them, and I didn't pay attention. But when I got home, those were really good. I mean, I was surprised that that they had such good quality socks over there, just giving them away for free. So that was very interesting. Uh, Piece of swag that I got
Mm-hmm.
in a WordCamp. Usually, there are shirts, and notebooks are very common,
Yeah.
and pins, obviously, stickers, very common stuff. But these
Mm-hmm.
pair of socks were something that I found very unique.
I love notebooks, but I also like pins when people
Yeah,
make the pins. Like, and I have
yeah,
you've probably seen me post before my bulletin board that's full of
yeah,
probably 500 different pins from WordCamps. It's like a memory wall of the places that
yeah.
I've been with WordPress. It's just pretty cool. So let me ask you some of my rapid fire questions. I always say I'll ask them rapidly, but you take your time to answer them.
Okay.
Okay. So the first
Yeah.
question is, what are 2 or 3 must-have plugins that you would recommend to somebody building their own website?
Well, I think the one or two or three plugins that I would recommend are Yoast, WP Rocket, I think, slash Breeze, and I think Object Cache Pro.
And why do you recommend those ones?
And I think why people should have these plugins is that if you are building a website, you would obviously need performance. You can't ignore
Hmm.
that. You need a backup. So obviously you can't ignore the backup plugins. And obviously you need SEO. Yoast is the best in the business. So I think you should have these three plugins to get started with. Obviously, you can add more once you grow your website and take up different projects. But I think these are the three plugins that you should begin with at least.
Makes sense to me. I love
Yeah.
everybody's answers are often very different, but Yoast comes up an awful lot in this question.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
any point during your WordPress journey or working within the community, have you had a mentor, whether it was an official mentor or unofficial mentor, maybe somebody that you looked up to, emulated, somebody in the company maybe, and who was it or is it?
Yeah. So I had a chance to work with, I had the honor actually to work with Alexander Savkovich. He used to work for Cloudways a few months ago, and we worked together in the community for about a year and a half. And he was the first guy who I met, who I worked with actually, who was so involved within the WordPress community, and he gave me all the insights on how the community works and how you should contribute. And he was the one who I actually went to WordCamp Europe with, and I was very nervous, obviously, because it was my first WordCamp and it was a huge one. And he was the one who actually told me that what you should do and what you shouldn't do, more importantly, and how you should talk to people, how you should interact, and how you should communicate and network. And I think that is something that really hit me, because he was the guy who had such a big profile in the community, and obviously, as compared to him, I had a very low profile, and he took me under his wing and taught me a lot of things, not just regarding events, but regarding a lot of other things within the WordPress community, how to onboard guests for different webinar series, how to outreach someone, how to message someone on the official WordPress Slack, to not make it rude or creepy. So I think he's something who he's someone who I admire a lot, and I think I will consider him as a mentor. If he sees this, he will probably laugh. So, but I actually consider him someone who I have learned a lot from.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So other than Alexander, who is someone that you admire in the WordPress community and why?
Okay, so I had the chance to meet Carol from Yoast back in WordCamp Asia in Bangkok. She came to our social event, and that was the first time that I met her, right? And it's not for WordPress reasons that I admire her. It's because I was so surprised at her knowledge regarding all the different cultures and religion, actually. And she had so much insights and so much knowledge about the Asian culture and Islam, actually, because she was talking to me in our social event, and she started asking questions about our culture, our religion, and she knew the answers for almost all those questions. And I was like, okay, so you know a lot. And she was like, yeah, I try to make sure that I am educated enough to understand different cultures, and when I talk to different people, I try to match the wavelength so that I don't come off as offensive or rude. And I actually admired that a lot, because not a lot of people care about that nowadays, right? They are very self-centered, and but Carol, really inspired me to, for me as well, to understand different cultures when I travel to different work camps now, to understand if I'm traveling to, for example, Italy next year, in WordCamp Europe, I should understand more about their culture now, and how
Mhm.
those people, interact with, and what are the do's and don'ts of being there. So I think, yeah, Carol is someone who I have, who I admire a lot.
That's Carol Ollinger, I think you mean,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
with her dog Buffy.
Yeah, yeah,
I also admire her very much, and her session at WordCamp Asia was absolutely inspired about
yeah,
mental health and how we can do better for ourselves. So absolutely, somebody I
yeah,
admire and look up to as well.
yeah.
What's something in WordPress that you'd still like to learn but you haven't actually tackled yet?
Well, as I mentioned before, I'm not someone who has a very technical background. I'm not a developer. I'm not a coder. So sometimes in technical conversations, I tend to get lost, because I don't know where the conversation is heading. If someone is a developer in front of me and he's talking about something that I don't know about, so I think as part of my job, I should know it, even though it's not 100% compulsory. But I think to be better at my job, I should know how to tackle those things and how to interact with developers now as well. So I think this is something that I have been trying to learn. Someone who doesn't have a technical background, someone who doesn't have the education that is required to build websites. Nowadays, it's very easy. You can get courses online and you can learn. I started actually to learn these things, HTML and CSS now. So I'm getting there, but obviously, as you said, I'm trying to tackle it now more aggressively.
I love that. I think for
Yeah.
a lot of us marketers, understanding the development side of things might make our jobs a little bit easier for sure, but
Yeah,
it's not
absolutely.
easy. It's so not easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not.
I have a feeling I might know what you're going to answer to this next question, but you could surprise me. What's
Okay.
the biggest mistake you've ever made in WordPress, and what did you learn from it?
Okay, so biggest mistake, as I mentioned before, the incident that I mentioned, I think that was something that I took a learning from.
Hmm.
So that is one of the things that I consider as a mistake, a huge mistake within the WordPress community. I think apart from that, there haven't been a lot of mistakes, but I think there have been occasions where I think that I could have done better
Hmm.
uh, uh, with either my work or with the person that I'm, interacting with. So
Hmm.
there have been a lot of occasions where we have organized series or webinar series with 5 or 6 guests, and I think I believe that we could have pulled those off better if we would have interacted with the guests pre-session a bit better, because it's actually very important when you're interacting with someone who is very new within the WordPress community, who you're not familiar with and who you have not communicated with before, and jumping live on a session with them without having prior conversation with them, I think it
Hmm.
gets a bit tricky. You have to get familiar with them. So it has happened quite a few times before where we have guests waiting to be acquainted with the host, and we actually just ignored those requests because we didn't see that it was important back then.
Hmm.
And when the session actually happened live, we could see that there is a lack of chemistry between the guest and the host. So I think those are the things that I'm still learning. I'm still trying to do better. Obviously, with WP20 series, you saw that how we interacted before the session
Hmm.
and how
Yeah.
how the chemistry was there during the
Hmm.
session. We obviously that was something that I took a learning from in my previous experience.
That's a great lesson for everybody. So I'm
Yeah,
glad that you said that. It's good advice for anybody else who's thinking about doing some of the things that you do. I
yeah.
think that's great. What's your proudest WordPress moment?
Proudest WordPress moment. I mentioned before that my proudest WordPress moment is organizing a WordPress meetup in Karachi. We are a very small community here, as I mentioned before. It's not more than 100 people. The challenge, obviously, is to make that community larger over the period of time. And
Hmm.
obviously, when we conduct when we host a meetup, we see very similar faces in every meetup, right? It's those similar 50, 60 people who are attending the same meetups again and again and again. And the challenge is to get more new faces into the community. And when we conducted the last WordPress meetup, we actually saw a few new faces, right? And that was actually a very proud moment for us because we saw that the community is kind of improving. It's getting bigger, because when we see our neighboring countries within the same region, we see we look at the example of Bangladesh, India. We see that the community over there is huge. I mean, and it's growing every day. You see WordCamps happening in Bangladesh. They're massive. I mean, I see WordCamp Dhaka and WordCamp Sylhet that happened very recently,
Hmm.
and those were massive WordCamps. Like, they had a lot of people over there, and I just thought that why couldn't we do the same? I mean,
Hmm.
obviously we have the people, we have the talent, we have the curiosity. I mean, why can't we do the same thing over here?
Hmm.
So yeah, it was actually very proud of moment for us that we conducted this meetup, and obviously it will open doors for more in the future.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Congratulations on all of that work, for
Yes.
sure. If you weren't working in WordPress or tech in general, what's another career that you might like to try?
There are two answers to it. The first is I would have been a doctor because my father is one,
Mm-hmm.
and so if I didn't pursue this myself, obviously I would have gone that way because my father would have influenced me to go over there, and his work would have influenced me to go in that direction. The other is you would probably laugh on this one, but the other is cricketer because cricket is something in Pakistan. It's
Mm-hmm.
very popular. There are two things that people are obsessed with. One I mentioned is tea, and the other is cricket. Right. So if I wasn't in this business, I would have probably gone the other way. Obviously, my father would have objected a lot, but I think I would have made it. Yeah.
And do you play cricket?
Yeah, so we actually play. We try to play every Thursday
Mm-hmm.
uh, with our office colleagues. So we have this indoor cricket scene nowadays going on a lot, where you can book the place for like 2 hours, 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can play cricket over there. If you ever get the chance to visit this region, you will see that every street is on in the evening is filled with kids playing cricket because we don't have enough grounds over here,
Mm-hmm.
so kids, take over the streets and they play cricket all evening, sometimes in the night as well. So yeah, I mean, cricket is something that we are really obsessed with.
I love that. I've seen it on TV. I've never actually witnessed cricket in person. So maybe
Yeah,
someday I will visit
yeah,
and I'll be able to see cricket in
yeah,
person.
yeah.
What's something on your bucket list?
Well, something on my bucket list. I actually wrote that down somewhere. Let me see. Yeah, there is a list I have actually made.
Hmm, I love that.
Yeah,
You can
so
check things
yeah,
off if they're on a list.
yeah. So there are actually two things that are left on my bucket list, and it's not a very huge list. So the two things are I want to backpack across Europe. It's I have visited Europe thrice now, and those were very small visits, mostly due to work, and one of the visits was due to word camp.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I leave that place, I obviously think about going back again and exploring more, because when you're there for work you can only experience
Yep.
not that much, but
Mm-hmm.
when you are there for exploring, you get to see a lot more things. So I want to just pack my bags and go and explore Europe, every town, every small village, and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
that is what I have on my bucket list. And the second thing is obviously the holy pilgrimage that we do every year. So that is something that I want to do. And the reason why it's on the bucket list is because it's very expensive, and
I bet.
it's yeah, and it's a 40-day pilgrimage. So it's very lengthy. So, and it requires a lot of physical, exertion. So that is something that I want to do in my life. Hopefully, I get a chance to do it. Yeah,
I hope you get to do both of those
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Absolutely. Show us or tell us about a hidden talent that you have that maybe the rest of the WordPress community doesn't know about.
Okay, so the hidden talent is it's probably not as hidden in our region, because it's something that almost everyone can do. So I can dance really well,
Hmm.
and I would love to show you now, but I don't want to, scare my neighbors. so, so yeah, I mean, in this region, you will find everyone who loves to dance, and we are a group of people who have been brought up with music and dancing and everything. We are influenced a lot by Bollywood music, by Indian music,
Mhm.
which comes from our neighboring country. So yeah, almost everyone over here can sing and can dance. So yeah, that is something that I can do, and not a lot of people in the WordPress community know about
Well, I hope I get to see that someday too, because I bet you're very good.
it. Okay.
How do we find you on social media? So if people are looking to get in touch with you, email, social, what's the best way to find you?
I think the best way to find me is on Twitter. I'm most active over there. So my handle is Mohammed Moeez. It's MUHAMMAD Moeez. So I'm there. If anyone wants to, get in touch, you can. My DMs are open, obviously, so they can get in touch with me on Twitter.
Excellent. And we'll put that information in the show notes. So if you're listening to this, you can go to WPCoffeeTalk.com, look for Moeez's episode, and you'll have all of the information there. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today before we wrap up our session?
Well, not as per. I think you have asked me a lot of almost everything that I have to share.
I do a
I
pretty good job of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm an open book actually. So I don't hide anything per se.
Yeah.
So even if you had any other questions or personal stuff, I would have answered those questions as well. Lastly, I just want to thank you for having me on your podcast. It's actually if I'm there next time and if you ask me what's your proudest moment, I will mention this moment right here because I think
Aw,
yeah, it's something that I have looked forward to for a long period of time. Obviously, I wanted to build a relationship with you before I
sure.
actually come up on here. So I got the chance to do that in Asia and now
Mm-hmm.
uh, in WordCamp Europe and now over here and through different webinars as well.
Yes.
And one of the things that I missed out on, if something is someone who I admire, one of those people are you, is
Oh, thank you.
because especially what moment that struck me most was that when you traveled all the way to Bangkok to attend WordCamp Asia, and not a lot of people from US came because the flight was too long, obviously.
It's very long.
Yeah, and you managed to come, and I was like, that is something that inspired me a lot because
Thank you.
of all the things that you do and within the WordPress community. I think that actually tops the list. You came to support the Asian community, and obviously that was something that a lot of people talked about it in Pakistan and in Thailand as well. That Michelle came to that WordCamp, and I think that was the highlight of the event, I would say. So yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
thank
I
you.
think that is pretty much it. Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me today.
Well, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor for me as well. And I am just so enamored with the work you're doing. And I can't wait to watch you continue to do amazing things in the community and for your career to grow. So thank you so much for taking the
Thank you,
time to be
Michelle.
with me, especially in your evening on a Saturday. So I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll see everybody on the next episode, and we'll see Moeez in WordCamps around the world coming up. So thank you all. We'll see you
Thank
later.
you.